Pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to proceed with roll call.
Chairman John Eric Hoover. Let the record show that Chairman John Eric Hoover is absent from tonight's meeting. Member Todd McClary.
Present.
Member Tom Kinsella.
Here.
Member Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Member Bill Colombo. Let the record show that Member Bill Colombo is absent from tonight's meeting. City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
City Manager John Duke.
Here. And for the record, I'd like it to note that Member Tom Kinsella is actually present virtually. Again, I'll ask the same question. Does this pose any problems with respect to quorum?
No, your code allows for a quorum when you have a majority present. Present is not defined as in person, and he is present by Zoom.
Thank you very much. With that being said, I'd like to move to the approval of the board minutes and a motion to approve board minutes.
Motion to approve the board minutes.
Second. Having heard a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Having heard none, the board minutes are approved. At this time, I would like to move to comments from the general public. No one has signed up. However, I will open to the audience for a show of hands of anyone who would like to speak. Having seen none, I would like to move to comments from the city manager.
Nothing to add at this time, sir.
Having no comments from the city manager, I'd like to move to comments from the board, starting with Member Rodriguez.
None right now, thank you.
Member Kinsella, any comments?
I have nothing, thank you.
I have nothing as well, so we will move on with our agenda item, move to consent agenda. I do not believe we have a consent agenda,
That's correct.
so there's nothing to discuss at this point. So at this point, we have one item of discussion, which I will turn to the city manager for introduction.
Thank you, sir. I've asked heirs to join us this evening. Subrata Bandy is their vice president. He and I have had a number of conversations over the last several weeks as we both get familiar with each other and get up to speed on where we are with our project. The proposal you have in front of you is a result of comments and concerns from at least one, if not several members of this board about traffic safety on 19. Heirs went back and designed or crafted a proposal to design a possible solution to that. When it was presented to FDOT, they wanted a traffic study prior to proceeding with the design and suggestions that heirs had. That would have added considerable expense and time to a possible solution and would not have guaranteed FDOT approval. Part of the negotiation process that heirs and FDOT went through was to consider moving that particular design project from the Cody Drive intersection to the intersection just south of there, right in front of Catches. And so Mr. Bandy and I have discussed that. I think he's going to have an alternative proposal. This is a $40,000 proposal just for the design work, and that kind of took my breath away. So he and I had a little ongoing conversation, and so I've asked Subrata not only to present that idea to us this evening, but also to bring us up on the project, where we are in the design process, in the bid process. And so a couple of his team members are here. I'll let him introduce them. But Mr. Bandy, if you join us, please. And Mr. Bandy has a presentation for us, and I'm sure you'll have questions for him. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. And this is my first time being here. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Subrata Bandy, 8875 Hidden River Parkway, Suite 200, Tampa, Florida, 33637. I have here Matthew Ivy, who's our project engineer, have been involved in the project, and Mike Nason, who is our roadway transportation engineer, and Mike is going to help me illustrate some of the options that we thought through. So we have a brief presentation today for you in terms of the project status. And as I go through the slides, I would make minor comments and then spend a little bit of time talking about how we got there and what's the path forward. Okay. It was working then.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so today the agenda is quite brief. We'll talk a little bit about the project status. And just for the ease of understanding, I would define the project into two larger chunks, if you will. One is the access from US 19 to and from US 19. And the other chunk is the rest of the yellow part where the riverfront improvement is going to happen. So we'll give you the status on those two major chunks, if you will. We'll talk a little bit about how we got here as we talk about the status. And we talk about some potential alternatives and essentially look for a recommendation from you and an approval to move forward with one of the alternatives that we would present. Next slide, please. So let's first talk about that yellow shaded area. The plans, specifications, and the bid package is ready for that area. The 2 points that I want to highlight here is we have had discussions with the property owners, adjacent property owners. It's up to city to try and figure out a formalization of that process. We have received verbal agreement from them. Formalization is something that the legal process we don't do, and I would recommend that city takes a few minutes to talk about it, think about it, and take the actions related to that. The other one is the coordination with Duke. Duke is working directly with the property owners with the right-of-way situation and the lighting and the poles. We have had contacts. They have submitted the drawings. They're in order, and their legal team continues to work with the property owners. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the access from and to US 19. The circle that I drew, that's where the right turn lane has been proposed. And we have a proposal to the city to that effect. But this right turn lane would cost definitely the study cost and the construction cost, and it's going to add to project schedule. So as John indicated in our conversation, he challenged us to go back and take a look at the need for that right turn lane. For me to explain that, we need to go back a little bit to the history of how we got here. Next slide, please. So the initial design was to keep the intersection at Cote Avenue as is, which means you could get in and you could get out from there. And I'm sorry I don't have a pointer here, but on the bottom of the screen, the yellow junction that you see, the lower yellow junction, that's Cote Avenue. As John indicated, there were suggestions to block the access from 19 to Cote Avenue because of safety concerns. When we went back to DOT with that proposal, DOT came back and indicated that we needed to do a traffic study. There was a traffic study that was done in 2018, and we presented that study to DOT, but that was too old for DOT. So DOT recommended that we do a new traffic study. The new traffic study would have cost $30,000, would have added a couple of months to the project schedule. So we again negotiated with DOT. And they came back with a waiver that, okay, you don't have to do the traffic study, but in lieu of that, you need to agree to put a right turn lane on the next intersection, which is the River Gulf Road. Because DOT was concerned that if we block the access to Coty Avenue, then people will the trucks and cars will back up at the intersection of River Gulf Road, and you would need a right turn lane to not impact the traffic on US 19. We went back, we looked at what it will take for us to design the right turn lane. We came back and submitted a proposal to John. Next slide, please. Again, as I indicated, that right turn lane will definitely impact the project cost, will add to project schedule, and we know that we need to expedite this project. So John challenged us with that question. How critical is that right turn lane? And do we have to do that? Because it's going to add cost for the design, cost for the construction cost, and we are looking at probably $70,000 to $80,000 additional that would be added to project cost. So we went back and started looking at going back to history in terms of how it evolved. Why did we even conceive that idea? It came from the city council here, and then looked at the safety records, looked at the traffic data, and tried to look at very critically, do we have a safety concern? Do we have to do that right turn lane? Or we can continue and improve that intersection at Coty Avenue with US 19 and essentially make it safer and not have to do the right turn lane. So as we went back to the drawing board, we came up with various options. Next slide, please. And all these alternative approach that we had basically geared towards reducing project cost escalation and reducing the impact on project schedule. So now I would ask Mike Nason, who is our traffic and roadway engineer, to come and tell us the several options that we looked at and essentially make a recommendation as to the most beneficial, cost-effective, schedule-effective option. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Sabrina. Good evening, everyone. As we look back again, I'll briefly go over this. In order to make Coty River Landing a little more pedestrian-friendly and safe, we wanted an internal one-way circulation, and that would go from Old Post to Treadway to Bay to then to Coty Avenue out. So I lost my slide first. So anyhow, there would be currently there's three accesses onto the US 19, and DOT is very protective of their right-of-way. So next slide. So as the plans develop, one of the considerations that we had, and to make this a little bit safer, just to have an exit only at Coty, and that's what we developed the plans for, and that's what we submitted to DOT. And there was work on DOT right away in order to make that one-way out constructible, such as revising the curb lines and the curb radiuses out there. So that's what our plans showed, and that's what we submitted to DOT for their permit. Next slide. So when DOT came back with permit comments, like John and Sabrata said, they wanted a traffic study. We looked at it 2018. They said they needed better data, more fresh data. We came up with talked to them again, see if we can eliminate the traffic study and just build a right turn lane. That would save $30,000 in 2 months of time. They came back and said, yes, we'll make a special exemption for Port Richey in doing that. So we came up with a right turn lane design, and again, $40,000 in 60 more days. And John came back and said, hey, you got to do better. And so the construction of the right turn lane alone would cost $35,000. So next slide. So one of the things that we came up with, and we briefly addressed this with the DOT permitting, And one of the things I've learned over my 30-plus years of working with DOT, things change, and that's their constant. And so what we said was, based upon input from the council tonight, we'll come back to DOT and make sure that one of the things that we're looking here is to not do any construction within DOT right-of-way, but within the city property, city streets, we can break out that two-way system a little bit with a striped island or some delineators in there so that the people turning into Cody Avenue will actually have to make a right turn onto Old Post, and then the people on Cody Avenue can come directly out and make a right turn onto US 19. This maintains the one-way circulation, and with a little striped island or a raised island, we're able to make the things, this intersection a little bit safer and not impact DOT's right-of-way. And with that, we won't need a permit, although we do have to coordinate with DOT to have them take a look at this and sign off on on the concept. The redesign for this, we anticipate the $15,000, and we should be able to complete this within 30 days for you. Next slide. Now, one of the things here is we're adding sidewalks on Cody and Old Post, and we want to connect sidewalks to DOT right-of-way. Again, we'll be impacting DOT right-of-way. I don't recommend this, but if you want a complete package with pedestrian safety, we can add sidewalks. The DOT said they would be able to do this for zero cost for the permitting, but it may take them 30 to 45 days to come back with a permit, which impacts the project schedule. What I suggest doing is actually creating a separate project, maybe with city forces, come back after this project is let for construction, then come back and construct these little pieces of sidewalk to connect to Cody River Landing with DOT's sidewalk. And we estimate these little pieces of sidewalk would cost $1,500 and maybe 3 days of construction. So
if I may summarize where we are and make a recommendation as to what you potentially could consider. You have two options: go along with the right turn lane. Now you're spending $75,000 at a minimum, plus 2 months of additional time, plus construction time. Or you could go with one of these options where the right turn lane is completely eliminated, your $75,000 cost comes down to $15,000, your scheduled extension goes only few weeks, and the bid package can be put together and essentially stay away from DOT permit. That's the moment you touch any right-of-way, any assets that DOT owns, immediately the permitting comes in place, the coordination comes in place, multiple meetings, and John knows just to get to this point, we had to meet several times with DOT to get through this iteration of how we can get to this point and eliminate that right turn lane. But they were definitely sympathetic about the fact that city needs to reduce cost, and that $75,000 would be definitely too much for the work that you are trying to do. So they are supportive of that, but at the same time, anytime you touch anything that they own in their right-of-way, the entire process begins. So Mike's suggestion to take on the sidewalk part within the city with your own force and treat it separately and maintain the connectivity with your sidewalks would be a great idea. That way, at this time, you are simply going ahead with the modified entrance, have a kind of an island that would improve safety of the traffic circulation and essentially not have a whole lot increase in project budget or schedule. I understand that the project has been delayed for several reasons because of coordination we do, these right turn lanes, safety issues. We are here to support the city to make it, move faster and essentially get going. So that would be my recommendation, and I have initial discussions with John about additional cost of $15,000 that would take to redesign this intersection and put the bid package together, make the edits and corrections, and have the quantities for this. And potentially within 4 to 5 weeks, we should be able to have a complete bid package ready to go out for the city. So that's my presentation, and thanks for your time.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The original problem with the right-hand turn off of 19 is boat traffic. Are they gonna be able to make that turn onto Old Post with that island?
Mike, you want to talk about the radius?
Sure. I'm not a boat driver. I barely do a utility trailer, so,
Yes, what we typically do is run a designed vehicle, which is, for Old Cody River, was a small truck unit, but we can definitely make sure that a boat with a trailer, a car with a trailer, can make that turn. And I noticed that the city did acquire the property on that corner. Is that correct? So on the northwest corner, yes. So we may be able to modify that intersection a little bit better to accommodate any boat trailer traffic.
and, I'm sorry, and
Yep.
then Cody River to Old Post, people would still be able to make that left.
That's correct,
Correct,
yes.
That's not blocked, okay.
Yep.
And they want us to make a right-hand turn lane, but they don't have one there. But we have to do one on the other corner.
That's correct, yep.
no right-hand turn lane, I just want that to be noted. This project was supposed to have shovels in the ground in January or February. Very disappointed, the fact that we're still talking about design. So I'd like to know what your suggestion is that we should be getting shovels in the ground. This is a year and a half with this project, and we're still talking about design. I understand FDOT, so on and so forth, but it's disappointing. We've paid a lot of money.
Yeah, again, as I indicated, the riverfront part has been completely designed, planned, specifications ready. The US 19 part has been dragging for at least 2 to 2.5 months. We have had meetings since end of January with DOT, and we had 3 meetings so far. And they have their own process, and they go along with their own speed and protocol. So unfortunately, the process took the time. We have been ready with the internal actual improvement part quite a while ago. So again, I understand the pain, I understand the frustration, but we are also subject to processes that are not in our control. But at this time, we are taking the control out from DOT, so that's why we came with the options. Initial recommendation to block that access came from probably the then mayor at that time. And so we have gone through iterations, and that always adds time. I'm sure you understand that. But I'm here today to tell you that we will put all the resources needed. If this is approved right away, we should be able to get the package out to you in 4 weeks. That's the earliest that we can have the project bid out.
Is there a way to start the project or the process and continue to work on this, but start working on the rest of it?
So, yeah.
That's just such a small portion of this huge project. I don't understand why this little intersection is holding up the entire rest of Cody River Landing.
Yes, that's a very valid question. We did talk about, can we split the project into 2? And it all started with, again, they have better history. I'm fairly new to the project. Yeah. It all started with DOT reviewing the circulation that we wanted to change, and that led to all of this. So DOT review and the suggestion to block that access kind of cascaded all these steps that we had to take. We are back to square again, going back to the original design. But we had to go through that iteration, unfortunately.
Well, I'd like to try to work on the rest of the project in conjunction with this as separate. And let's get going. Let's start working on the whole rest of the project. And we can
Yeah.
continue working this as a separate issue. That would be my suggestion. Because this is a 20-year project. You're not there 20 years, but this is a 20-year project for Port Richey, and we need to get shovels in the ground. Thank you.
Yeah. No, your point is well taken. Understood. Any other questions, comments?
Actually, I do. You mentioned, and it appears that you highlighted several areas in yellow that you are ready for bid documents. One of the areas was not Bayside Drive. I believe I have that road correct, that runs along the river. Does that mean that we don't have any of the documents,
Treadway?
or not Treadway, when you make the left? I think that's.
Oh, in front of Hooters, that road that
Yeah,
way? Okay.
Bayview, thank you.
That was just an old graphic that we used to have good documents.
Okay, so we do have the entire,
Yeah,
because then things would have gotten very bad in this meeting very quickly.
I went stuck on it.
Okay, so that's just an old thing. We have Bayview included, and that's all wrapped around. Okay, that's a little more comforting. If we could go back, so I guess, and I don't believe Councilman Kinsella has the benefit of these graphics in front of him.
No, that's true, unless he is on, he wouldn't be able to see them.
Okay. My concern is right now we have a motion to approve the task order for $40,000, which appears to be the first option on this. And that's the recommended motion, but in reality, from what I just heard from you, you're recommending option number 2.
Yes.
Which would require us to deny this motion, and then subsequently, we're going to have another proposal come before this board, presumably in 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we have another 4-week time frame. I guess I'm a little disappointed that we're now having this meeting here, that we're going to have to deny this motion because we don't have a proposal in front of us. It's going to take another 2 weeks to get the right proposal in front of us, and then we're 4 weeks down the road from there. So now we're actually 6 weeks for even the recommended proposal.
The timeline that got us to here, when I got the proposal that's in your packet now, I went through it, Mr. Bandy and I talked about it, and our consensus was, my thought was, there's got to be a better way. There's a lot of money, and having Mr. Bandy help remind me of why we're even talking about this. There was one member of this board that had safety concerns, and this is the proposal to fix those safety concerns. So when I got the proposal, I called him and I said, I don't think this is going to fly. I know these 5 people. That's a lot of money, and are there alternatives? But I'm going to go ahead and put it in the council packet, in the CRA packet, and in the subsequent week and a half, Mr. Bandy and his team have come up with the alternatives. Now, that was literally a week and a half ago that we had that conversation, and I said, if there's any other alternatives, let's put them together, get them in front of the CRA board so we can talk about them, but this proposal will be presented to them, because I have it in hand. I'm ready to go with that. Obviously, if you're asking for a staff recommendation, but my assumption was this wasn't going to fly, no matter what else you had to go with it. But we've got to have alternatives. In a week and a half, we don't have time to turn those alternatives into a presentation or a proposal to get them in front of you. So Ayers has been working hard to get to this point, and to be quite frank with you, I haven't seen their proposal until now. I'm seeing what you're saying at the same time, but I did charge Mr. Bandy with find some alternatives, because I'll put it in front of them, but I don't think it's what they're looking for. So long way of saying, yes, you're right, but it wasn't because of any delay or dragging our feet. In fact, I've been beating up on Mr. Bandy for a couple weeks now.
If we could go back 1 slide, please. Yeah, correct. So DOT is aware that they're going to have cars flying at 45 miles an hour off of Route 19, then having to make that, well, 90 plus
Yeah. 120.
120-degree turn to a one-way street without a deceleration lane or anything, and we're not required to do that because we're out of their right of way and we can do anything we want with our street. Yet they still don't want to close the intersection.
Mike?
That's essentially true. There's also a bus stop right there too. So, I mean, the bus stops almost blocks the intersection. So, you know, as a traffic,
What type of signage are you recommending that we put so people who, again, are flying off 45 miles an hour don't go straight down the wrong way on the one-way now, because no one in their right mind would actually think they'd have to do a 120-degree turn?
so one of the things that I'll be doing is refining that little yellow island there. And we'll have definitely probably what's called flexible delineators. So cars will have to make that hairpin turn. Okay. We'll also have do not enter signs on Cody facing the intersection. And we'll have some other like crosswalk striping there, and be careful of pedestrian signs and all that type of stuff for this intersection.
When we present this, we're actually going to say you're expecting people to make a 120-degree turn at 45 miles an hour.
Well,
25 mile an hour.
hopefully, the people who make these turns are familiar with this and know that Old Post is fairly narrow as it is. So,
And pulling a trailer too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you. Yeah, they would be pulling a trailer at 45 miles an hour, making a 120-degree turn.
one of the things that I do look at is crash data, and what I'll be doing is looking at how many crashes that are solo vehicles with overturned trailers at this intersection. So,
From what and maybe I'm not understanding this correctly, but if we do this, they can't say no because we're out of their right of way, correct?
that's essentially true.
So maybe the right thought process and discussion process is, guys, this is what we're going to do, and this is the problem you're going to have.
I expect,
When they make that turn and they overthrow, they're gonna be on our property, not theirs.
no, what else? What'll probably happen is that there'll probably be a lot more rear-end crashes on US 19 as people have to make this turn. They'll slow down fairly suddenly.
But Mike, the existing condition, we are not changing the existing condition a whole lot. So the safety concerns should not get worse.
Well, the problem,
Well, because you used to be able to go down Cody too, so it was only a 90-degree turn. We're essentially stopping that and now making you do a 120-degree.
Yeah, that would have been anyway. I'm thinking, you know, the two alternatives that we are talking about.
Member Kinsella, I know you may or may not have the benefit of this document in front of you, but it appears that the recommended direction is to deny the current motion on the table. I don't know if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I've been listening. I have grave concerns. Honestly, some of this proposal I'm hearing, my personal opinion, I think it stinks. I think we're causing a greater hazard by making this U-turn coming off of 19. We're going to be creating a mess. And also, I feel that we should have input from our other two members who aren't here today. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to see any of this. I've been following it on a map I have in front of me, trying to visualize everything. But I just got some grave concerns over this whole thing. I'm just wondering, can we just table this until our other members are able to be on board, get other input. Plus, it's the first time our citizens are hearing of this too. So over the next few weeks, getting some input from the citizens as well.
I think this may also provide an opportunity for heirs to bring back a revised proposal based on this modified entrance and maybe have a talk with DOT and talk some sense into them of what could happen without their approval, because I can't believe that the DOT will want such a potentially deadly situation occur where they have the opportunity to stop it immediately.
You had some discussion, right, Mike?
Oh, we've had discussions, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted a traffic study and a right turn lane.
If we stay out of their right of way, they can't request a traffic study and they can't request a right turn. So maybe with the knowledge that we can do this without them and their input or their denial, maybe they want to rethink their position.
What we'll do is we'll prepare some additional details for this intersection, make a better turn radius, corner clip the northwest property, and try and make it as safe as possible and present it to DOT and get their input.
Again, I don't tow trailer boat, so please excuse me. I really think the island is probably making it worse.
But the island has to be there or else you're going to have people oncoming going to be where the island is theoretically.
I understand, but I coming off 19, as you, then 45 is giving them leeway, because they're not going 45, sorry. They're going 60, and they're gonna make that turn, and I don't want to be putting people in jeopardy. I mean, they're going to get hurt. Someone is going to get hurt. That's my opinion. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know the solution. The solution is a right-hand turn. I don't want to pay that money because that's their roadway. I understand. It's a conundrum.
Well, I think maybe the best course of action is, right now we have an agenda item that must be, I believe, satisfied with either a call for a motion and lack of motion to approve, or we can table it by consensus.
You can table by consensus if that's what you'd like to do.
I'd like the other proposal brought back, of course, like you suggested, please. That.
So, Mr. Kinsella, I heard earlier you say you wanted a consensus to table. It seems like everyone is in agreement with that, so we will table this item at this time.
Good idea, thank you.
If you're done with that
I'm
item.
done with that.
There is a consent agenda. Ashley pointed out, I think it's page 3 or page 5. Page 5.
Oh, yes, there we are.
It's kind of
You want to get paid.
the timing, but
So thank you. If there are no more questions, thank you all. Oh, no problem.
All right, circling back to consent agenda for the payment of errors. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'm confused.
I went backwards.
No, I understand.
Oh, sorry.
So this is for what?
This is for their
For that?
payment.
No,
No.
sorry.
No, this is payment, ongoing payment for,
Are you gonna start
For
working on
progress.
this project soon? I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Agenda item number 3 is tabled, and I believe, now we move on to old business. Member Rodriguez, do you have any old business?
No, thank you.
Member Kinsella, do you have any old business?
None.
City manager, do you have any old business? No, sir. And I do not have any old business. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.